to work hard, to be the best that you can be, to look in the mirror and know that what you see in that mirror, the world sees. And you have to work twice as hard and be twice as good and be about the business of doing what you're supposed to do. There's plenty of time for all the rest. So I think you do it till you can't, because it keeps the mind sharp, it keeps you active, it keeps you on your toes. You feel good about yourself. And my main thing, you keep your memory.
Hello, revolutionaries, and welcome to the Midlife Revolution, the show for busy and empowered women ready to transform their lives. I'm your host, Coach Angie, and today I'm super excited, y'all, to introduce you to yet another phenomenal powerhouse woman, Andra Richardson. Andra is a legal powerhouse who's been serving justice and her community for decades with grace and grit. She graduated from Wayne State University Law School, and she kicked off her career as an Oakland County assistant prosecutor, and since 1990 has served as a magistrate for Michigan's 52nd District Court. In addition to wearing the robe, she still practices family and criminal law and shares her knowledge as an adjunct professor at Eastern Michigan University. Andra's also been deeply involved in service organizations like Top Ladies of Distinction, Jack and Jill of America, the Wolverine Bar Association, and the Association of Black Judges of Michigan. She is a proud mom of two daughters and a lifelong advocate for justice, mentorship, and elevating Black excellence in the legal field. Welcome, Andra.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much. So let's get into it. What inspired you to pursue law in the first place? Like, was there ever a moment where you doubted the path?
No, well, for a moment, but I was in what back then they called it junior high school, which is now middle school. Um, and I wanted to be an attorney. So I wanted to go to Cass Tech, and you had to claim a major. And they didn't have like a pre-law. They had like chemistry, pre-med, like engineering, things like that, but nothing for law. So I elected performing arts, because I figured I'd be able to learn how to speak in front of people without being, afraid. That was a concern early on. And I got so into performing arts and dance that for a minute I wanted to be a dance instructor, or actually become a dancer, or some form of art, maybe acting. At any rate, I made my major physical education, because you couldn't get a dance major. And then I got a job, I believe back then I got a job with Delta Airlines. And one day I just sat there and I said, look, you always wanted to be an attorney, and you're not going to make it in this dance business, so you should follow your heart. So I made some changes along the way. I believe I was 30 years old when I went back to school, to go to law school. And I changed my undergrad to criminal justice, then finished up with law school, and immediately got a job with Oakland County Prosecutor's Office. Now, a lot of things have changed, but you're right, that has been my history and my background, but a lot's changed with respect to organizations and things like that, because it's really been a journey.
Awesome. Would you like to expound on that? What has changed?
What's changed? I'm no longer Jack and Jill, because my children are now 35 and 39. Actually, my oldest daughter, she's in Jack and Jill. So you graduate out when your kids are 18. I'm no longer in Top Lady. There are two organizations. As I got busier and with my career, I couldn't do as much as I used to. I did teach at Eastern as an adjunct professor for a couple of years. And I stopped doing that when things changed in my life. And I had to concentrate on my practice more as it grew. It needed more time. So I did that. And now I'm just in two organizations, the Dows and another organization called the Mo's. The Dows, we raise money for children. It's a great organization. Give out Christmas presents, and we help people who are trying to get their lives in order. And I love that organization. I've been in it for over 30 years. And so I clung to that. I didn't let that go. I recently joined an organization about 5 years ago called the Mo's, and their motto is simply make it fun. You only have so much time. And it's just a fun organization, and they say it's later than you think. And that's true. So as I've gotten older, I felt I needed to reach out to something where you just have fun, relax with a nice group of ladies.
I love that. I love it. So have you guys gone on any travel, done any traveling together or anything?
In the malls, no, I haven't. They do a conclave every year. Last year, my daughter was pregnant and had some restrictions. She started having complications. So during that time that we were supposed to go, I didn't, because I had to go to her. She lives in Washington, D.C. and assists with that.
Okay,
So,
gotcha. Well, you
yeah,
did leave a legacy with Jack and Jill because now your daughter is there.
I
So,
did leave the
um,
legacy.
yeah. So you've served in multiple roles: prosecutor, magistrate, professor, and practicing attorney. All those hats, which one has challenged you the most personally?
Um, Probably family law. I, only because you have people's lives sort of in your hands and you want to assist your client in making the right decision. But like I tell all my clients, it's your life, so you have to make the final decision. I can give you advice, I can give you examples, but I can counsel you. But
Yeah.
the ultimate decision is your own. And after COVID, everything people have changed. It appears to me that people have become more angry.
Mm.
Um, and it's just sad to see. People
Yeah.
dig in, and I don't know why, but I see that on the bench. The crimes are more horrific to me. People just are mean. That's about the only way I can say it. And there's a lot going on. I don't know if it's because during COVID, we couldn't socialize with others. And by the time we were semi out of COVID, everyone learned to just do everything online. You don't go out and talk to people or meet people. Young people are meeting all their people online. They don't know who they're meeting, because I see all kinds of cases where they end up in trouble with people who they really don't know, making bad decisions. But I think what's going on right now with relationships is people just they should do more socialization, in my opinion. They should just get to know people, go out, talk, don't just chat, on TikTok or whatever they chat on, emails and all that stuff. You need to learn people, and you have to meet them face to face. So that's
Yeah.
one of the things. So divorce is much more challenging.
Mhm.
And then the children are involved, and I'm an advocate for children, and I have always cared about kids. And sometimes people make decisions it's all about them instead of about the children. So you have to bring people back over to that and make them understand your children are number one. And
Mhm.
and then the bench, I guess, is next. And you see all kinds of crimes. As a magistrate, my duties are to do arraignments,
Mhm.
First, I start with authorizing complaint warrants and search warrants. A complaint warrant is when the police bring a report to the prosecutor. The prosecutor writes what's called a complaint and warrant, and they have to bring it to the court and swear in front of me, and I either say yay or nay, depending if they meet the factual basis to confirm it. After that, they bring those individuals. Sometimes, if it's not real serious crime, they'll just send what's called a come-in letter and say, hey, you've been charged with this. You need to come to court and get arraigned. More serious crimes, they go and arrest the person and bring them in. So I do the arraignment, I set the bond, and then we do other things.
Awesome.
Like weddings, which is kind of weird because I marry people one day and divorce people the next. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah, both ends of the spectrum, but that's life, right?
Yeah.
So you've been in the
Absolutely.
legal system since the late 80s. What has changed the most for women, particularly Black women, in law since then? And what still needs to change?
I think I started the job with Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, January 1988. And I was the only African American or Black person there, period. As far as women, there might have been 3 or 4 of us out of an office of over maybe close to 200 attorneys at that time. So that was kind of interesting. But I get along with men, and so that was fine for me. I learned a lot, from them. But I still would have liked to have seen more women. Now we
Right.
have a female prosecutor in Oakland County. You have a female prosecutor in Wayne County. You see more and more women on the bench. In some instances, you see more women than men, depending what court you go to. So women are really doing their due. Even in law school, it's very few women when I went, but now, it's sometimes more women than men. So that's the good news. But that's how it was in the beginning. It was a struggle. You go to some courts and, judges weren't used to seeing people that look like me, especially a female. But, now it's not that way. So
that's awesome. So we have come a long way, right?
We have come a long way. In 38 years, we should have. Not as far as we should.
Of
because
course.
I think that it's still, it still needs to be, we need to be more active and more involved in those things because they really, really affect the lives of women and African American women. So, women need to be more and more involved. Even in politics, though, I see more and more women running for office, and that's encouraging. But we have to get our girls out there and make sure. Like I say, I'm a mom. With my children, I was never a math or science person. This just wasn't my thing. When they were 5, I got them a tutor, and I had them tutor for the next year, not the year they were in. I made sure they had strong background in math and science, and it helped them with their careers. So I think girls need to make sure moms make sure your girls are strong in math and science.
Yes.
And get them tutors. If you can afford it, get them tutors. Some churches do free tutors. And even if you don't need a tutor, like people would tease me, your children don't need tutors. Yes, they do, because you want them to be the best and the brightest. So they do need that.
I love it. I love that you had them tutor for what's to come instead of where they are now. That's really, really good. I love it. So you've also been active in organizations like we spoke about, Jack and Jill and Top Ladies. What has community involvement and sisterhood meant to you outside of the courtroom? And you spoke a little on your, is it Mo's?
The moles are more like to just have fun. And they're professional women, but we just understand that, we need
You
to
want to
have a
leave
little
the, you want to leave the business outside and let's have
Right,
some fun.
right.
So what, in terms of the community involvement and system, what has that meant to you outside of the court?
It's been important.
Mhm.
And like I said earlier, I really love the Dows because they care about children, and
Yeah.
that's my heartstring. To
Mhm.
help, girls and boys
Mhm.
who are young. Some of them don't have the benefits that other people have had.
Sis.
So, so they but we go in, we help, and that's why I love Jack and Jill for my girls, because we did a lot of community service, and you taught the kids from like age 2 or 3 to give and give back. And even though the youngest group, they would have to give toys sometimes to other children who were less fortunate, and they would cry and, no, that's my toy, but they learned how now. I had a trick, and my trick was whatever I bought for the children, I purchased the same thing for mine. So they were real
Mhm.
cool with giving, one for you, one
Yeah,
for
of course.
me. So they
As
were,
long as that's fine.
but they have learned, if you raise children to be giving and caring about
Yeah,
others, they become that human being. And
that
so
is true.
that's what I enjoyed about the Jack and Jill. It was, like I say, many years later. And my kids learned to give and to care
Mhm.
about others. And they're active, both of them, in
Mhm.
caring and giving back. For the Dows, we give Christmas toys at Christmas, and we pick different, organizations to give to, but we try to pick someone that's not getting a lot. So,
Yeah.
there's certain organizations out there everybody gives to. We try to find organizations that don't. We've done things like, in addition to the toys at Christmas, we adopted a shelter, for
Mhm.
women
Oh, wow.
who were victims of domestic violence. And
Mhm.
for a couple of years, we would actually, on Mother's Day or right before Mother's Day, we made baskets for the moms to get, Mother's Day gifts, because truly their
Yeah.
children can't afford to do it. And we
Right.
give them all kinds of gifts and things that women would like to have, and
Yes.
it was really nice, and they just loved it, and bring them flowers and things like that.
Mhm.
So
I love that. That's very thoughtful to make sure they can get their mom something for Mother's Day, because
right.
that is really teaching them to do that all the way through adulthood, and they have to be taught that. That is nothing that they would even think to do, because of course children are very self-centered, because things are all about them when they're a kid.
Yeah,
And if we're not
yeah,
teaching them how to be givers, then they don't know. So I
exactly.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So mentorship is a pillar of this show. Who mentored you along the way, and how are you showing up for the next generation of legal minds and leaders?
My mentor, once I became an attorney,
Mhm.
was Judge Christopher Brown, who was the first Black judge in Oakland County. In
Mhm.
Pontiac, Michigan, is a district court judge. And it was interesting when I first was assigned to his court. Um, he invited me in, and he gave me just the best advice ever. He said, don't ever, if you can't say it in public, you don't say it.
Mm.
You pick up a phone and you talk to people as if the world is listening.
Mm.
And that way you'll never get in any trouble, because
Mhm.
you watch what you say, and you be careful and thoughtful about what you say. His other one of my favorite things, he told me, he who cites prevails. In other words, if you have to cite laws when you're arguing about why someone should be bound over, that was one of the things. Like, once the magistrate is done, then the case is sent to the district court judge, and the person comes in court. And if you're charged with a felony, you have to prove that there's probable cause to believe the crime is committed, and probable cause that you will be able to prevail in that charge. If it lacks probable cause, the judge or the magistrate can dismiss it at that time.
Mhm.
Um, so, as a prosecutor, you go in, you argue your case, why the judge should bind the case over to circuit court because it starts at the district court level. And it was, he told me this, he who cites prevails. He said, don't come in thinking because you're a prosecutor, the judge is going to always rule in your favor. You
Mhm.
have to have the law to back up everything you say. And
Mhm.
so I took him to heart, and I would get a case, and let's say about armed robbery. I knew every element. I would look up laws and the cases. And so I made all these folders for each crime because,
Mhm.
that's what he taught me to do. And when I would come in his courtroom and I would start citing all these cases, at one point his co-reporter said, you know what, you don't have to cite that many cases because that's a lot more work for them. But I took him at his word, and I always throughout my career would go to him first and ask
Mhm.
him, should I take this? Like when I was offered the appointment of a magistrate, I went to him and discussed it with him. And he always gave me the best advice. So that's been my mentor. He's retired now, but I'll never forget how
Mhm.
he helped me with my career.
Right. That's awesome. That's so good to have a great mentor. But how are you showing up for the next generation of legal minds and leaders
I
as a
try
mentor?
to help younger, um, especially female attorneys, but
Mhm.
men too. And, I
Mhm.
give them advice. Sometimes they listen, sometimes they won't. I help them, I tell them what they need to do to research.
Mhm.
I,
Mhm.
and I believe in encouraging young people, period, on, if I think they should do something to improve, I'll call them up to the bench and say, from now on, this is how you might want to handle it. And they
Mhm.
mostly respect that.
Yeah.
It's interesting, you'll try to pull someone in because by the time they come to me, they've gone through law school, they've done everything they need to do, and they're working, and they don't really have time for me to mentor them other than give them advice. But, I'll show them how to argue cases. I've shared case law and briefs and all types of legal documents with attorneys so that they
Mhm.
know how to, argue a case and be prepared. So I tried to do some of the things Judge Brown has done for me. They've also, they call me and ask me advice, and I give it to them.
Mhm.
So I guess I
Mhm.
just try to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I'll take them out and, things like that, and
Mhm.
encourage
Mhm.
them. I
Mhm.
have one young lady who calls me every time, she feels concerned about something. She's new. And I just
Mhm.
discuss it with her and try to encourage her and,
Yeah.
assist her in how to handle it or
Yeah.
advise her to
Encourage.
handle it. Yep. You
Yes.
need encouragement, especially in
Yes.
that field. I went to
Yes. Yes.
Wayne. Yeah. I went to Wayne Law School, and,
Mhm.
they actually, for African American students, there was very few of us, they had a mentor program. So you were assigned an upperclassman in law school to be your mentor. And my mentor was Rasul Rahim. And we formed a friendship. His wife was actually a professor at Wayne. And
Mhm.
I ended up with his wife as my professor. And I was pregnant at the time with my oldest. And
Mhm.
she looked at me and she says, when's the baby due? It was September. I said, oh, I was supposed to have her on the 3rd, but she isn't here yet. She said, I
Mhm.
don't birth babies. So you don't have to come back. I'm not going to hold it against you. But please, I said, well, the hospital's right around the block. I mean, it's my first baby. I didn't know what to expect. She's like,
Mhm.
no, that's okay. You don't have to come until after you have your baby. And we
Mhm.
became the best of friends, and our children became best of friends. And
Aw.
so, it's important to
Yeah.
reach out to each other, actually. Forget
Mhm,
about younger.
mhm,
Even as older attorneys, you still have to reach out to each other and encourage each other and help each other. Hey, how you do this, how you do that. I ask people, people ask me. So it's
mhm.
like you got to be a community that work
Yeah.
together to help each other be successful.
I love that. That really hits home for me because in my work, I mentor women who have been showing up for everyone but themselves, and I help them
Mhm.
refocus on their wellness, their confidence, and healing from the inside out. So, from your lens, how important is self-care and wellness in sustaining a demanding, high-pressure career like yours?
It's important, but
Mhm.
I'll be very honest. It's important, but it's difficult if you throw
Mhm.
yourself into what you do and you want to be the
Mhm.
very best, because I
Mhm.
ignore me. And
Mm.
now I said my children are older, they're, well into their careers. They stay on me about, Mom, you got to, and even my friends, you got to have time for you. You need to take time for
Mhm.
you. And sometimes I don't do that. I work all the time because I love what I'm doing. Um,
Mhm.
I'm not interested in retiring yet, although,
Mhm.
age wise, I probably could, but I'm not ready.
Okay.
Um,
I love that.
but yeah, I know people who, this one attorney I know, he just told me his dad's 90 still working. So I
Mm.
think you do it till you can't, because it
Yeah.
keeps the mind sharp, it keeps you active, it keeps you
Mhm.
on your toes. You feel good about yourself. And my main thing, you keep your memory
Mhm.
as good as you improve on that.
Mhm.
It's sort of like if you don't walk for a month, they say you won't be able to walk again. Well, I don't
Mhm.
want to sit until my brain don't work again. So, and like I
Yeah.
say, I have the energy and desire, but I have to learn to put time aside for me, because that's my weakness. I ignore me sometimes, and
Work-life balance, right?
and I need to
You
learn
must
that balance.
Yeah, you must
Yep,
have it, and the
yep,
biggest, thing that I say to people, because when I heard it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to say this to everyone because this puts things in perspective, right? You have 10,000 problems or 10,000 things you need to do until you get sick, and then you only have one. So
right,
you want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself because with all the things that you love to do, I would hate to see you not be able to do it because you're not focusing on taking care of yourself.
right. And I have health issues, and it's
Mhm.
you know in the legal profession, if you get with the right group. I mean, had a lot of support.
Yeah.
Um, I have something called sarcoidosis. So,
Yeah.
um,
I've heard
yes,
I know what
yeah,
that is.
it's an
Yeah.
autoimmune disease. And I
Mhm.
remember when I first got it, I just refused to sit down. I just dealt
Mhm.
with it. And I've had
Mhm.
wonderful physicians. And
Mhm.
so I was able to deal with, but I had a lot of support. Even
Mhm.
my judges, one of them was like, look, we'll cover your docket, just go home. And I was like, no, because if I go home, I'm giving in or I'm giving up. I can't give up. So I just
Mhm.
pushed through it. And I had that, I think I was diagnosed about 29 years ago. And
Mhm.
so now it's under control. I do what the doctor says. And that's what a key I tell all women: you get a good doctor and you do what your doctor says, and you'll be
Mhm.
fine. But you
Yeah.
got to follow as I say, follow the rules. If they
Yeah.
tell you take medicine at 12 noon, take your medicine at 12 noon, not 2 p.m. You just have to
Mhm.
follow the rules, and
Yeah.
you get better. But I was
Yeah.
able to deal with that. Now I just got to deal with me and
Yeah.
make myself pay more attention to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And you'll
I'm
do it.
doing that.
You'll do it.
Yeah, I'm trying to I do with my kids. I have
Mhm.
grandchildren now. My oldest daughter has 2 children, and
Mhm.
she's married to a wonderful guy who happens to be an
Mhm.
attorney. So I'm happy.
Oh,
My kids were like, we'll never be attorneys. And so, but I
and
tease
she
my
married
oldest
one.
daughter. I said, you married one. So, but and we do family vacations every year. We pick a
Oh,
nice
good.
resort and do like a villa, and we're all in under one roof, and it's just wonderful. So I
Okay.
think you
So do
have
you find yourself relaxing when you take your vacations?
always, because I
Good.
love the beach and I
Yeah.
chase sunset. So that's where I find my peace.
Mm,
I chase sunsets and sunrises. Those are two things
awesome.
I love, and and I like the beach. I'll just sit there and do nothing for hours,
Awesome. Awesome.
just
Well,
chill.
there's some you time. So
Yeah,
hope you
that's
can get yourself
yeah,
some time without going on vacation. You can find
absolutely,
time for you. Yeah. So
absolutely.
you're a mother of two daughters. What
Hmm.
values or lessons have you tried to pass down to them? I know you mentioned earlier how you used to have them study for what's to come and not where they are. But what values and lessons have you passed down to them, not just as their mom, but as a woman who's walked through this world with power and purpose?
To work hard, to be
Mhm.
the best that you can be, to
Mhm.
look in the mirror and know that what you see in that mirror, the world sees. And you have to work twice as hard and be twice as good and be about the business of doing what you're supposed to do. There's plenty of time for all the rest. I was that way with them about education. They call me for advice with respect to their jobs. Like I say, they're both professionals and
Mhm.
have really good jobs, but that's what I always tried to instill in them, the importance of working hard. It used to be a standing joke when they were in college and they come home for, November for a week, and then they come home for like almost 6 weeks, during the winter, because they both went away to school. One went to
Mhm.
Howard and one went to Spelman. And as
Mm.
soon as they got home, I'd say, "You have you gone up to the mall, try to get your little job back, because you got to work." And I
Mhm.
would always say, everybody works, because I got divorced when my youngest daughter was 9. I filed,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so at one point I was like, everybody in this house got to work. And we had this little Yorkie. And I said, Quincy's got to get a job too. As soon as I find him a commercial, he's working. And and they, sometimes they didn't want to do it, but I said,
Mhm.
you learned to be independent financially. You can buy whatever that little outfit is. I mean, I didn't take their money. I didn't care what they did with it, but just
Yeah.
work and understand the
Yeah.
importance of working and carrying yourself a certain way, and you know
Mhm.
dressing a
Yeah.
certain way. I just always
Mhm.
made sure that they were, be understand what you see. That's what other people say. So,
Mhm.
gotta have pride in what you're doing. And
Yes, I love that. That is so good, so good. I hope everyone is paying attention when they see this. That's great. So I have
yeah,
a final question for the
okay.
woman watching who feels like it's too late to change paths or step into something bold. What would you say to her?
It's never too late.
Mm,
When I started law school, first of all, I was older when I started. I went at the age of 30, but there was a woman in my class who was in her 50s, and she graduated with the rest of us. And, it's never too late. And she started
mhm,
practicing law. People change their careers all the time. When I first decided I wanted, I had to live this dream that I had in junior high school, and, but I still love dance. Um, I would think about, I believe it's Isadora Duncan, who was a famous modern dancer. I don't believe she started her career until she was in her 60s. You can
mm,
do whatever you want to do at whatever age, as long as you take care of yourself. I am very much into trying to, stay healthy. I'm not a good healthy eater, but I try. Drink my water, do the things that keep you healthy so that you
mhm,
can do whatever you want to do. But there's no
mhm.
limits in life. I believe women can do anything they put their minds to doing.
I, oh, what a great note to end on. I love that so much. And I completely agree. Whatever you can see, whatever you just go out and achieve it and just do it. Don't make any excuses for not. Just go ahead and make it happen because we're powerful beings. God
We
made us that way. And I'm just
Yeah.
so excited to have met you, Andra. You are an amazing woman. Not with all the talk that you did with about your daughters, I want to meet them too.
Oh, yeah, you can meet them. Brittany and
They're
Chelsea,
awesome.
they're my hearts, but they're really good girls. The only thing they've decided they're my boss now. So it's
Yeah,
like
of course.
I'm
It
getting
changes. That's how
payback.
we are with, yeah, with our parents. We're like, we're the
Yeah,
boss now.
yeah. Did you do this? What about that? And they're the ones
Hmm.
that are on me about,
Yeah.
and I have to listen. I think young people are more, and I know we got to finish, but they're more in tune to getting counseling. And like
Yeah.
my youngest daughter, she believes,
Hmm.
in going to getting counseling, just talking to
Hmm.
somebody about her ideas and life, and
Hmm.
just making sure she's on the right path. And she's always
Yes.
saying, "Mom, you should get counseling." And she's right,
Hmm.
because I think
Hmm.
everybody can benefit from hearing advice from others that maybe are strangers that you can be more truthful with than like your
Hmm.
best friend. So,
Yeah, totally agree. I think counseling is so important, just to get out whatever you think you have already gotten out, but you really haven't gotten it out because you haven't addressed it yet.
right, right.
Yeah,
And it's easier
yeah.
sometimes to do it with a stranger. So,
Yes, most definitely, because there's no judgment, right? We don't feel
right,
judged by them. Yeah, and that's their job to
right.
not make you feel judged and just kind of help you along. So I love that. I hope you do it. I hope
I
you
am.
continue
I
on your
have to
journey of
find
taking care of
time.
yourself.
I got to find
Yes. Oh,
time.
you got time. We all got the same amount of time in the
Yeah,
day.
I
We just
know.
how we manage it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you,
Thank
Andra.
you. All righty. Thank you so much.